So now we've got this three-dimensional shape, it's worth starting to think about how it's possible to lie it flat. Part of this is experience, so your cutting lines, they really need to be you need to be thinking about them going through the curves, but you could do multiple lines. You will need to do multiple lines to get this lying nice and flat. We also need to start thinking about how we're not going to lose one piece against the other. So part of it is experience. I'd go straight down the middle here on that curve, and I'd do some marks so that I know that when I come to it, those two are going to have to line up again. If I just cut down there, let me just cut down there and I'll show you. Sometimes that is enough to make it lie flat, but you can see that it doesn't like lying flat. So you can determine the bit that is most problematic by finding out, where it starts being resistant. So this bit obviously is flat, and it's at this point that it's starting to not go flat. So we could take a line through there and see whether that's enough to get it to lie flat. And actually I would do on here, I would start the line there as well, so that those two line up. You could deliberately offset them if you wanted to. That's a possibility. So here, pretty nice and flat. This bit still doesn't like it. You can see that this is still wonky. So I'm going to cut this other side, draw this line. And 1, 2, 3, 4. I wouldn't consider that lying flat either. I would like to do another cut on that, but that will do for a minute. Right, so the next stage is to cut around these pattern pieces so that you can line them up and make your paper template. You need to be careful that you don't straighten out. So that's a curve there, and it needs to stay a curve. If you made that straight, then you wouldn't get the three-dimensional curve that we were after, that was causing us the problems and the reason why we needed to cut it in the first place. Because you see that is a cross and a dot, and that's a cross and a dot, that's what it comes to. So this line is slightly concave, and this one is slightly concave, and it was those two joined together was what created that three-dimensional shape. So don't get arbitrary. You need to be really accurate, and you need to be trying to go along these. There's some kind of level of experience. There'll be some that you kind of look a bit jagged and you can straighten them out, but really, certainly when you're starting out, you should try to keep as close to the edge of the pattern as possible. You'll have two, because you've cut the sellotape off, you have a piece of paper and you have your plastic. I would keep them together and try and keep them safe for the time being, because you need to transfer the marks. Now, depending on how curved your lines are, you might find it easier to use narrower tape than this, or just small pieces of masking tape. You need to work quite precisely, and you can start with kind of the easy ones if you like. You've got a 2 there and a 2 there, 3, and you've got a 2 and a loop there. So most of these lines are pretty straight, so we shouldn't have too much of a problem with those. That was a 2, that was... Now it's absolutely critical that you get it meeting on this back side, and if, like here, you've got a bit of a stretch where it's starting to curve, you need to just go in and snip it so that the tape lies flat and you've got it nice and crisp. So the next one I'm going to do is that 3 there, and that's the 3. And I like to start in the centre of whatever line I'm going to, because this outside edge is still a bit arbitrary, but those centre ones were ones that we actually cut. So it's really important to get those to line up rather than the outside edge. We can trim the outside edge. And this was one of the pieces that was stubborn to lie flat, and you can see why, because this is wanting to curve and bring that whole shape into its more three-dimensional form. So you're just working your way along, easing it into its three-dimensional curve. Snipping that there so that it lies nice and flat. And that's how you're going to construct them all.